What is the role of legislation in privacy compared to technical solutions? Is lack of privacy being normalized in the meat space? Concerns about quantum encryption, web tracking versus app tracking, and a hodgepodge of privacy and security questions. Welcome to the Q&A for Surveillance Report 221, where we answer questions from our amazing patrons who allow us to make this podcast for all of you. You can view and join the questions on patreon.com/surveillancepod and xmrchat.com/surveillancepod. We missed a week last week, but yeah, we have a lot of questions this week, so we might blow through them a little bit faster than usual just to try and be mindful of time, but hopefully the answers will satisfy you guys. We're going to start with Parker, who says the general population does not care about privacy that much, and it often feels that even the privacy enthusiasts are mostly interested in technical solutions. The recent news of several countries proposing or implementing laws that diminish user privacy are a bit concerning. Question 1, what are your thoughts on laws and regulations that affect privacy? My thoughts are that it's a two-pronged approach, and I think the thing you just pointed out about countries passing laws is kind of proof of that, because you're absolutely right. There are people who are like, the laws don't matter, companies break laws all the time, who cares? Yes, but hypothetically, if every single country in the world outlawed end-to-end encryption, now what? Now it's literally impossible to get end-to-end encryption, or the only people offering it are shady criminals. And by the way, I just finished reading that book, Darkwire by Joseph Cox. Highly recommend. Anom was specifically marketing themselves as by criminals for criminals. So even if you're like, well, that's fine, we'll just use outlaw solutions. How do you know those solutions are legit? How do you know they're not a honeypot? We already have those accusations going around about perfectly legitimate above-board tools. It's going to get 1,000 times worse if all we have are the illegal black market stuff. We do need technical solutions to force companies to respect us, but at the same time, we also need laws to help facilitate that.
I really like the way actually the Calyx Institute puts this on their website in the About page. There's law, education, and technology. And they try to do all three of them as like a little flow chart. It's a cool flow chart. Those are like a very good, generic, broad few buckets. So projects that we talk about typically focus on tech. Those are important. We need those. We also need laws. We need the EFF fighting for people. We need the EFF fighting to make sure encryption isn't banned. Like, if you think that laws aren't important, then you've never lived somewhere where they can just ban encryption outright like that and make all your technology useless. And then education is also important. If people don't know about this stuff, then that's a problem. And so hopefully that's where we also are mostly in there. We don't do much law or tech, but we do education. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Question number 2, do you think that the privacy community spends too much time on technical tools and not improving the regulations? Yes and no. I do think we have a proliferation of organizations out there who are doing amazing things. And you can go to thenewoil.org and check I think it's the links page, and if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a section that says get involved, and I swear to God, I list probably a good 12 or 15 organizations there, like EFF, Algorithmic Justice League, Fight for the Future, Open Rights Group. I think Open Rights Group is on there. Tons of them. And these are organizations that are doing different things. You know, EFF focuses on laws. STOP, I think, is mostly based in New York, and they focus a lot on police accountability and facial recognition tech. Privacy International does a lot of stuff in the UK and also a lot of Europe and East Asia and stuff like that. So I think there are a lot of groups out there. I would like to see people get more involved, because Louis Rossmann tells this story about how the way he got involved in legislation and right to repair and politics is he went down to his representative's office. There was a bill that was going through, and basically talked to the guy. And the representative was like, well, if we allow right to repair, all these bad things are going to happen. And Rossmann was like, what are you talking about? That's all completely made up. And he was very polite about it. But he's like, this is all completely made up. Who told you this? And the guy looked him in the eyes and was like, son, I'm 78 years old. I don't know how any of this works. You know why I'm signing this bill? Because somebody put it in front of me that claimed to be qualified and said this is going to happen. You're the first person who's come in here and told me that that's not how it works. And ultimately, Rossmann made the better argument, and the guy went with Rossmann's bill instead. But that's when he realized, he's like, nobody shows up to these things. And so that's a big thing, is a lot of people say oh, laws don't work, they don't do anything, it's so corrupt. And I don't disagree with you to an extent. But at the same time, if we just throw our hands up and say there's no point in getting involved, then of course we're just laying down and letting the bad guys roll right over us. So I think there's a balance of both for sure. And I think there's a plethora of groups out there. But at the same time, I don't think it could hurt to see a little more involvement.
The only thing I have to add is I think people normally enter privacy for personal reasons. And I hope that more and more of us go beyond those personal reasons as we go along the journey. Because I think going to regulators and doing this stuff is not very, in fact, it can actually work against personal goals. It takes time, it takes effort. If people get upset at what you do and push, like you can make enemies of pretty powerful people. So the more of us that do it, actually the lower the friction point is for other people to join in.
You raise a good point there that I think is worth mentioning is if you are in a position where you can afford to take that risk, like threat modeling, I'm not going to tell other people what to do, but I think it's really heroic of you to do that. It's kind of like Proton or any of these services. Like they have a free tier, but we encourage you, if you can pay for it, please do, because now you're subsidizing the people who can't afford it, that they can still get these good privacy tools when they literally don't have the money. So I think it's the same thing. If you're in a position where you say, yes, I might attract negative attention, it might cost me a lot of time and energy, but I can do something about this. I can go to the legislature's office. I think that's a good thing to do. And then we already kind of touched on this. Do we even have power to impact the regulators? I think sometimes we do. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's a lost cause. We're going up against very powerful lobbies and very corrupt politicians. I think a lot of the time we are a little too hard on them, and they are acting, at least they think they're acting in good faith, and they think they're doing the right thing. And I think if we come in there trying to meet them where they're at, instead of going in there and going, you suck, you're bad, and you're evil, if we go in there saying, like Rossman, this isn't accurate, here's the real thing, I think we can have more impact than we think we can. When you post about a specific topic, have you noticed a lack of engagement when it comes to politics compared to, let's say, a new browser or a new messenger? I think it's kind of hit or miss. Like sometimes I post a political story and it gets a really strong reaction. Sometimes I post a technical story and it gets a really strong reaction. Different crowds, though, I will say.
I think it's 50-50 for me as well. It just depends how big the story is in each area.
And then Parker's last question, do you have any ideas on how to engage the community more in this or where someone would even start? I heard that even just donating to certain organizations such as EFF might be a big deal. That is true. These organizations are criminally underfunded, but if you do not have money to spend, if you have time or a skill, any kind of skill. I'm involved in one of these organizations on like the local level here in my state. And the way that I got involved was I literally I showed up to a few meetings. I made sure I liked them. I kind of got to know them. And I was like, hey, I work in audio video. Like I can't run any code. I can't host anything. I don't have any money, but like I can edit videos. I can film meetups. I can help you produce content. And to my surprise, the president was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. Like we would love to make little short videos explaining certain laws that are coming up in the legislation and, or just general education topics. So I would ask, like, what are your skills? What do you have to offer? And who are the groups in your area? And unfortunately, there may not be groups in your area. It may be hard to find them, but donating time, if you have disposable income, definitely donating that helps a lot. On The New Oil, I list a whole ton of organizations. So it's not just EFF. I know for some reason, some people have issues with them. There's so many to pick from.
Next question is from David Johnson, and he's got a few of them. And the first one is, have you ever had a private investigator or background checker who is skilled at OSINT try to dig about you online? Have you ordered a pen test in your own digital life, etc.? I haven't. The closest I've done, there was a really cool research project from a university student. They contacted me and they said, hey, would you like to be a part of a new research paper where essentially like they go in and try to use information from videos and information I post online to try to narrow down where I live based on like information. And they did a really good job. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that. They also did it with, why am I blanking? The guy who runs Have I Been Pwned?
Oh, Troy Hunt.
Yeah, I think Troy Hunt was one of them as well. Yeah, and it was interesting. And I mean, like, the results were exactly what I expected. So everything is good. But it was a really interesting paper. So that's the closest I've done. But no, I haven't really had the need to do that. It's kind of something that's probably going to be expensive to do, I assume. And for most people, like, just dealing with the basics and the bare minimum is probably going to be pretty good for you.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've never had a professional do it. I've had a couple of friends who are pretty good with OSINT, who I've trusted with my real name. I think maybe a couple other pieces of information, but I kind of gave them a head start. And I'm with Henry. I think it's going to be really expensive. And I think you got to keep in mind that the type of privacy that we preach is the outrunning the bear joke. We're trying to keep it short. So if you haven't heard that joke, just go look it up real quick. It's short. It's a good joke. So I think for most people, yeah, just like a regular digital removal service, or, maybe layering a couple of them, doing a little bit of it yourself, being mindful what you post online, things like Redact, who has sponsored Techlore, and The New Oil has an affiliate link. We both do, just for disclosure. But things like Redact to take down old content, I think that's going to really get most people where they need to be.
Next question from David Johnson is, have you used NitroWall from NitroKey, and do you know if the associated IMEI change is legal in the US? I haven't used NitroWall, and I just looked it up right before, so I don't really have any major thoughts on it that I could probably share just on the fly. NitroWall is like a hotspot. Think of like a Calyx hotspot, but this comes with software out of the box, like that allows you to do pretty cool things. Like you can run like VPN software, it runs OpenWRT, Tor, so there's cool things you can do with this, but I've never used it before.
I have the Calyx hotspot, but with that, you're kind of tied into T-Mobile. You can do different carriers on the NitroWall. It's pretty interesting. Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or USB tethering. I wouldn't be opposed to trying it, but no, I've never tried it. And I did look up IMEI changes in the US. In the US, according to Leo, Brave's AI assistant, so take this with a grain of salt, it's not expressly prohibited, but it could be considered a violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Basically, don't use it to do anything illegal, which I feel like should be a no-duh. We say that all the time about everything.
Next question, do you use the web clipper feature of any note-taking apps? I don't, so I know like NotesNook has that, and I don't know if Standard Notes has it.
I don't think Standard Notes does, but there's another one. What is it, like AnyType, I think also has it, or one of those like Notion FOSS replacements.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but I don't know if Nate does.
I don't either. You say like, how do you save stuff without making your browser fingerprint stand out without another add-on? I just use bookmarks, man, honestly.
Yeah.
And then if I need it later, I can always run it through the archive.org.
They also asked if I've tried RunZero or KickSecure. No to both of those on my end.
Same. For those who don't know, I had to look those up. RunZero, Waza, and Security Onion are basically like enterprise level monitoring systems. And KickSecure is same thing. It's an operating system. It's supposed to be extra hardened. KickSecure interests me. The other ones, like, I really don't see a need. Like, this is really advanced stuff, and I just don't see a need for it. I keep my router updated. I've disabled all the WPS. I've got good passwords on both the login and the Wi-Fi itself. VLANs, firewalling the VLANs from each other. Like, I feel like I've got a pretty good thing going on, and I don't feel the need to get too crazy with it. I feel like that just overcomplicates it for diminishing returns. I'd be doing a lot of work to get very little in return.
And the last one is from iVerify. iVerify for mobile devices seems to have garnered contradictory feedback. Bruce Schneier wrote positively about it, while Graphene OS characterized it as a scam and malware in its own right. Do you understand where each of these sides is coming from? For context, iVerify is run by Trail of Bits, who has kind of a spotless reputation in the space. They've done crypto reviews, like in cryptography for Discord's Dave protocol, which is their end-to-end encryption. They've done it for Phantom Wallet. They've done SimpleX, Linux kernel they even did a review for, Standard Notes. They've done audits for lots of privacy tools that even we recommend and talk about. They've also done reviews for Arch Linux, Pacman, OpenSSL, OpenVPN, Homebrew, curl, Zcash. Like, they're very well respected in the community, and pretty much any audit you see, like Trail of Bits is like one of the few companies that probably did the audit. So anyway, my point is I didn't see anything that would characterize it in any way as scam or malware. And I actually use iVerify on my phone. It's a great piece of software.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. That'll take us into Larry, who says, is using the web version of social media site more private than the app version? Yes, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I put out a whole video about, it's my most recent video, and God, one of these days I hope to have the time to put out another video someday. But yeah, my most recent video on the New Oil's YouTube and PeerTube is all about progressive web apps. And at one point, I explained why they are better than native apps. One of the reasons is because since they're in the browser, first of all, if you're using a good browser like Brave or Vanadium, if you're on that OS, like one of these like more hardened browsers, you're getting a lot of security and privacy features just from that alone. And then on top of it, because it's in the web, it's sandboxed a little bit better compared to a regular native app, and it doesn't have as many permissions. Now, the caveat there is, what has the developer done to make this work right? Not all websites are PWAs, and iOS makes that way more confusing than it needs to be. Not all of them are well maintained. So even if it does do a PWA, some developers might say like, well, I'm really not worried about that because 99% of people download the native app anyways. So that's where I'm going to focus all my attention, which I get, but then it becomes a self-fulfilling feedback loop. But ideally, yes, if the web app is functioning up to your needs, it's almost always going to be better from a privacy and security perspective. I'm sure there's a caveat in there somewhere, but yeah, generally speaking, web is always going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. And the nice thing about the web is that you have a lot more control over what you can do in the web. There's tighter permission management normally that your browser has than most operating systems, unless you're on Mac OS or you're using like Flat Seal on Linux. On Windows, you can't like deny certain permissions. You just kind of grant everything administrator privileges. And that's Linux by default for most people as well, actually. So that's already a big benefit. But then also a lot of browsers, you can block elements, you can install different extensions to modify things how you please, you can block nasty JavaScript, but you can't really do any of that when you're downloading a native piece of software. The one caveat, there's something to be said about like if you use a desktop program, it's like harder to serve like malicious JavaScript to that thing, but I think that's a different discussion than if like web tracking versus app tracking is different. I think generally speaking, being in the web is better, especially, but it depends on you, right? If you just use Facebook and Chrome with nothing different, it's not going to be too different than downloading the Facebook program. But if you use Facebook and Chrome with uBlock Origin and you start denying permissions and maybe you're starting to use other tools to help your privacy, then it's quite a bit better.
It's funny. I was actually going to use Facebook as the example. So I'm thinking more from like a mobile perspective, but I'm glad you mentioned desktop because that's valid there too. But that's actually one of the things I recommend. I've had people ask me before in good faith. They're like, why should I care about privacy? Not trying to be a dick. I genuinely want to know, like, you're really passionate about this. Why should I care? And when you get somebody like that who's open and receptive and says, I want to learn, and the first words out of your mouth are, you need to delete Facebook and you need to switch to Linux and you need to get off Google and switch to, this custom operating system and switch from Gmail, and like all they hear is, F this shit, I'm going to go home and watch Netflix. You're never going to win them over that way. But when you tell people to take these baby steps, Facebook, for example, I'm like, look, I get it. A lot of people are under the delusion that Facebook Marketplace is any good. Okay, keep Facebook in the app or in the browser on your phone. Like, delete the app off your phone, open it in the browser. Because number one, it'll be more private. It'll have less permissions. It'll stop Facebook from tracking things outside of the app. And as a bonus, it breaks you of that habit of like, oh, I'm waiting on the elevator. Let me open the Facebook app and just start mindlessly doom scrolling. And you can still use it. You have to make some changes.
Riley pretty much asked, I've noticed an increase in the normalization of not respecting others or strangers' privacy, and I'm curious of your thoughts. Some examples, I went to go take photos of a new light rail system in my city, posted them online, and someone in the comments got upset that I censored passengers' faces, saying that there is no need to. Another example, set a very good score in Meme, an arcade rhythm game. The others waiting to play were impressed by the score and wanted to take a photo. They gave me an odd look and were confused when I asked them to censor my face before posting it online. Yeah, I think it's a tough place to be. Someone asked me this kind of a very similar question recently in a live stream, and what I kind of boiled it down to is, one, I do think it's a lot more normalized as people post more and more of their personal lives online and it becomes more and more normal and more okay. I think that it's harder for us to make our arguments and it comes across as weirder. It is very much a generational thing, I would guess. I feel like if you talk to anyone above the age of 40 or 50, they're probably a lot more willing to listen to you. But if you're talking to someone, the younger they are, probably the weirder it's going to be to them, just because of how involved they were with technology and how much of their lives they likely shared online. But it's also it's an experimentation thing. So if you just started noticing this, you might be early on and trying to put together your talking points that are effective for you. And so I would also play around with like different arguments to make or different things to say and just be like, this happened to me, or I'm concerned about this. Like, would you mind if you blurred this before you post it online? That would really mean a lot to me. Like maybe something like that would work better than saying something else. So my point is, try different things to say. But I do think that it's getting worse, if I had to guess. But that doesn't mean that you still can't. People are still humans. So if you find a way to connect with them and set like a nice boundary with them, I think they'll listen to you.
Okay, next question comes from Private Name. You said, what do you think about the claim by a prominent cryptographer that KYBER isn't secure, KYBER being one of the latest post-quantum encryption algorithms? Since the whole security community is adopting it, it is concerning if accurate, and then you link to a blog post here. Because we are trying to not read questions until the last minute usually, I have not read this post. I will say, holy zombie Jesus, this is a long post. I will say, on first glance, I don't know who this person is. I am Day Bernstein, and this is my personal weblog. Okay, I don't know who that is. Y'all, I'm begging you, if you make a blog, tell me who you are and why I should care. I've seen so many blogs like this where somebody's like, here's my criticism of Signal, or here's my criticism of Tor, or here's my criticism of AES. And then I click on their blog and they're like, I take pictures and write things in Toronto. And I'm like, okay, that's a really cute bio, but that doesn't tell me why I should care about your opinion on something. All right, just for shits and giggles, DJ Bernstein. Let me look this guy up real quick.
I went into this question just trusting Private Name when they said this is a prominent cryptographer.
Oh, he is. He's got a Wikipedia page.
Nate's just hating on someone for no reason.
No, I stand by what I said.
Okay, but I'm going to go along with the prominent cryptographer because I'm just respecting the question because I don't know anything about this, nor am I a cryptographer myself, so I actually don't have any thoughts on this. I feel like it's really easy to poke holes in things, but it might still be worth it. There's probably some kind of compromises that they made. I don't know. My point is that I'm sure the security community is well aware of it, especially from this blog post from 2023. So it's something that I'm sure as a community they'll figure out, but I don't have many personal thoughts on it.
Okay, so I still stand by what I said. I shouldn't have to Google your name and hope you have a Wikipedia page. But yeah, he is very accomplished.
How do you stand by what you said, though? You said...
Because I shouldn't have to Google your name to figure... Because what if you do know what you're talking about, but you're at the start of your career and you don't have a Wikipedia page? Like, if you say, I'm a cryptographer who went to MIT and I now work for Google. Like, okay... I understand now that you have some credentials and I should pay attention to who you are, as opposed to like, I'm just some stranger on the internet with an opinion. Back to our earlier question about do laws matter? In case none of you have heard of it, there was a little thing called the Crypto Wars, back when crypto meant cryptography and not cryptocurrency. This was when the US tried to claim that code should be treated as a weapon and therefore should be regulated like a weapon, and therefore you cannot distribute encryption code globally. Or if you do, you need to like seriously water it down. That turned into a court case, which was headed by the EFF, specifically Cindy Cohen, who is currently the executive director of the EFF. The EFF won that case and said that code is free speech. You cannot outlaw code or regulate it in this fashion, which is why we now have a safer internet that gives us things like Let's Encrypt and e-commerce and, a secure internet and Signal. Anyways, that case was Bernstein v. United States, and that is Daniel J. Bernstein, who we're talking about right now.
Yeah, but we shouldn't take his blog seriously.
At no point did I say that. All I said was introduce yourself. I'm DJ Bernstein, and this is my personal weblog. I shouldn't have to Google you to know why I should care. Okay, I stand by that. But anyways, that said, yeah, I mean, clearly he knows what he's talking about, but I think Henry's right. I think even when NIST announced that these are the standards they're going with, I don't think they ever claimed that they were perfect or infallible. I think they just said these are the ones we want to move forward with, and we trust that over time there will be iterations and improvements. Also, from what I'm hearing, like this is kind of more of a preemptive thing anyway. Like post-quantum encryption in general is kind of a preemptive thing. Like it's really not something that we need to worry about in practice at this time. This is everybody trying to get ahead of the curve. So I think in that sense, I think it's great that if he's accurate and there are these issues. First of all, I just noticed this blog is from 2023, so it's possible that these have been fixed since then. I don't know if he issues updates or corrections on his blog, but just throwing that out there. That said, it's good that we're finding these things now so that we can improve them and iterate on them for when it actually does matter and when these things start to come into account. But now that I actually know who this guy is, I definitely think it's worth paying attention to what he says. But yeah, I'm certainly not qualified enough to know if it's like run for the hills and don't bother, or if it's like just means that we need to make some incremental tweaks.
The next question is, what do you think about the safety of I2P versus Tor? I actually think that I2P themselves does a great job documenting the differences on their own website. It doesn't feel very biased to me. It feels like a very honest assessment, but they have benefits of Tor over I2P, and they have benefits of I2P over Tor. And I think they do a really good job unpacking that, and I can't add anything more than what they already say here. And for me, I use Tor. It's just got a larger user base, and it's just better for me, and most sites use Tor. But definitely check it out. I think that's the best place to go.
I briefly looked into I2P. I don't know too much about it, but from what I understand and from what I've heard around the web, I2P is very solid, and some people would even argue is superior to Tor. But the main drawback, as far as I'm aware, is that Tor has a much larger user base, so it's easier to blend in. And like Henry was saying, a lot of sites cater to Tor. I would be surprised if, even in the privacy community, some of the sites that have a Tor site, like Proton or who else has one? Privacy Guides, The New Oil. I've never set up an I2P site. Tor just has a bigger user base and more adoption, kind of like Signal. Like, are there other messengers that do things that Signal don't? Sure, but right now Signal is kind of the easy mode. And also that I've heard that Tor is a lot easier to use, a lower barrier to entry, whereas I2P is a little bit more complicated. I don't know how true that is. That's just what I've heard. Like Tor, you just download the Tor browser and you go. I2P, there's like certain clients you have to use and stuff. So as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just Tor kind of has the market share. And then our last question comes from XMR Chat from TCP. Hey guys, wanted your thoughts on SimplifiedPrivacy.com and their VPN/profile solution. They seem to make some interesting points about Mulvad, etc., and how to defeat browser fingerprinting. Thoughts and experience. I feel like we've had this question recently. I have not paid much attention to Simplified Privacy because I poked around their site briefly, And I think there's a lot of room in the privacy space for different approaches and different ideologies. And theirs simply wasn't one that interested me. I think if somebody found their website and that was their introduction to privacy, I mean, I think if you're like me and you were coming from my whole life's on Facebook, I'm all in on the Google ecosystem, I'm using an iPhone, I think anything is an improvement. When I read their website, I was like, I think we've got different philosophies here and I'm not really interested. So I kind of just moved on. I don't even know what profile, solution, or Molvad arguments you're talking about, to be honest with you. Those were our questions this week. We talked about legislation and privacy compared to technical solutions. We talked about the normalization of privacy off of the internet, and even on the internet a little bit. We talked about concerns about quantum encryption. We talked about web tracking versus app tracking, and a grab bag of privacy and security concerns. Thanks for tuning in and asking questions. We really appreciate them, and we appreciate your support to the podcast. If you are not already on Patreon and you want to ask us a question to answer on the air, you can join the Q&A at patreon.com/surveillancepod, or if you would like a little bit of a more private option, we have xmrchat.com/surveillancepod, where you just tip some Monero, you pick a display name like TCP did, and then you go ahead and ask your question. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you this weekend with more privacy and security news.